Hey guys, it's your boy Chris here, the Wicked Chef, CaribbeanPot.com, coming live and direct from my kitchen with another wicked recipe for you guys. Today we're doing something with breadfruit. And I've got my boys all boiling, simmering away up in there, nice and tender. Today we're doing breadfruit pie. Now, if you're in North America or in Europe or something and you're thinking pie, you guys think pastry and apples and all that kind of stuff like that. Not in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, when we think pie, we think nice, cheesy goodness. Smelling good already, you know. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com, guys. Let's make a breadfruit pie. Let's see if we can quickly go through the ingredients that we'll be using. Back here, 1.5 cups of evaporated milk, 3 tablespoons of butter, that's salted butter, a couple tablespoons of finely chopped parsley. I've got a whole onion here, fairly big onion. I'm going to use maybe about half of that, and I'm going to dice it up very, very finely. We want to get just a little hint of that onion in every bite. Some fresh ground black pepper, maybe about 1/4 teaspoon of that. You know your boy can't go on without his Caribbean sunshine. Hey, maybe about 1/4 or half, depending on how daring you're feeling. We're going to, no seeds, because I mean, that's where all the heat is going to be. We want a ton of flavor, a little kick. So we're going to use maybe about 1/4 to half of that finely chopped. 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of mustard powder, a pinch, and that's probably about about 1/4 teaspoon or so of nutmeg, just to give it that nice island vibe. Over here, cheese. I've got here 1.5 cups, but I mixed it up a little bit. So 1 cup of a medium cheddar, and I've got here 1/2 cup of Monterey Jack. You can play around with any sort of cheese you like. If you like that nice white old cheddar, that stuff is good as well. Kind of pricey, so I went with a little cheaper version here, mixing it up to give him that nice little something. And back here, the star of the show, a breadfruit. Hey, kind of expensive when you have to import it up here in North America, but when you love breadfruit, you love breadfruit, right? I'm going to peel it. By the way, this is between 3 and 4 pounds, closer to 4 pounds of that breadfruit there. I'm going to show you guys now how to peel it and prep it, because we've got to boil it, pre-boil it to cook it down. What we're going to do is we're going to boil it in salted water. As you see, there's no salt mentioned here, but we're going to need salt for boiling this breadfruit. So here we go. I'm going to show you guys how to peel, core, and get this breadfruit prepped. You're going to need a nice sharp knife for this. The very first step we're going to do is to cut the stem area off here. So not only are we going to discard it, but it's going to give us a flat surface to work this with. So I'm just going to, and you got to give it a little bit of muscle in there. And now notice I have a sturdy surface to work on. Next up, we're just going to take the knife and go all the way down the center. Sort of a rocking motion just to get all the way down. So now we've got 2 halves. I'm just going to put it half face down now and cut that as well in half. So I've got myself quarters, and one more time we're just going to cut that again. And there we go. So I've showed you guys how to break it down to make it easier to handle. This part here that you're seeing is pretty much the core. We've got to get rid of that. So with my sharp paring knife, all I'm doing, sort of giving it a saw in action again. This part here we're going to discard. All we're going to do now is remove the outer skin. And you can use a potato peeler as well, but I'm quite happy using my paring knife. Just sort of trim off any sort of. And there we go, we've got a piece of breadfruit already prepped and ready to go to be boiled. I went ahead, peeled the breadfruit, cored it, and everything else. It's in pieces here now in water on high heat. I'm bringing it up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt to that. And we're going to bring that down to a rolling boil and let that cook until it's tender. Just wanted to quickly show you guys something. It's nice and bubbling away there. One thing you'll notice, well, a couple things. It will float, so it have the tendency to float. So what you'll have to do is ever so often move around the pieces, so the ones that's been floating, and I'm making a mess on the stove. Lordy Lord. It will float, so you have to kind of move them around so they fully cook. Each piece gets fully cooked. The other thing is, as it cooks, you will notice a sort of a yellow color it's going to take on. That is quite natural. This here has been going now for about 10 minutes. I'm thinking it's going to need about half an hour in total, but we're going to do the knife test to make sure it's nice and tender before we take it off the stove. It's been boiling now for about 25 minutes, so we're going to test it to see if it's cooked all the way through. And all I'm going to do is get my little paring knife here and go down the center of it, and if there's no resistance, it means it's fully cooked all the way through. So what I'm going to do now is drain this and allow it to cool, and we're going to get to making the nice cheese sauce we're going to be using. Now the reason why we're going to allow this to cool is because we're going to have to slice them up into thinner pieces. So as the breadfruit cools back there, it's drained and I'm allowing it to cool, I have another saucepan here on a medium-low heat to which we're going to start making that nice cheese sauce. The pan is warm, so I'm just going to dump in that butter first. And you're going to need a whisk for doing this, so make sure you have a whisk on hand. Just simply melt down that butter. I'm just going to turn this down to low because I want that butter to melt without burning. For some reason, when I added the flour on here, I thought I was recording and it wasn't recording. So pretty much what I did was I added the flour to the butter and I gave it a good whisk. You got to keep whisking it anywhere from 4 to 5 minutes until it's nice and smooth and you're assured that that flour is cooked all the way through, because the last thing you want is raw flour. So it's nice and smooth now. So what I'm going to do is add the evaporated milk and continue whisking. Now it's time to really season this thing up. So in goes the mustard and the nutmeg. And again, I'm on a low flame right now. Fresh ground black pepper. I'm going to raise my heat up to medium now because I want this to sort of come up to a simmer. And in goes the onion, as well as, if you notice how finely I chopped up that Scotch bonnet pepper. And the parsley. Then I'm going to toss in my cheese in there. And I think I could probably turn the heat off because all the residual heat in here should be able to melt that cheese down for me. So all you want to do is keep stirring. If you notice it's overly thick, you may need to add a little bit more milk or any sort of thinner in there, maybe some more evaporated milk. The next step before we assemble everything and put it in the oven, we've got to thinly, well, maybe about 1/4 inch, we're going to slice the cooked breadfruit and set it aside there. And again, just repeat the same process. Just slice it thin. Just quickly show you how we're going to do this. Now I've got a baking dish here. I've greased it with butter. So all we're going to do is pretty much put a layer of breadfruit down first, all throughout the pan here, the baking dish. Then all you'll do, you're going to scoop out some of that cheese sauce and spread it all the way, pretty much like you're doing a lasagna. So just spread it. I think we're probably going to get 2 layers out of this. Spread it nice and evenly. And pretty much put another layer on there and then we're good to go. Yes, my guy is ready to go into the oven. We've got to preheat that oven 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You can top this with some breadcrumbs now, some panko breadcrumbs, any kind of breadcrumbs that you like. Me, I like adding this, a little bit more cheese just on the top like that. And then my boy is going to go into the oven 350 degrees. So the oven just screamed at me, letting me know, hey dude, I'm at 350 degrees. So I'm going to put it in the oven. But what I did, since this is a shallow pan, it's going to be hard to remove in and out of the oven. I put it on a cookie sheet here just to make things easier for me to remove it out of the oven. 350 degrees, middle rack, anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes. But I'll update you guys on that. Kitchen smelling wicked. Pie out of the oven. I got a little cool down. I know they probably want me to dig in there so you can see the layers and all that. But I'm the wicked chef, so I'm going to leave you guys right there. CaribbeanPot.com, guys. This thing cooked for 30 minutes. And then I put on the broiler setting just to get a nice little crust on the top there for 2.5, 3 minutes. So in total, about 33 minutes it cooked in the oven. Always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen with me. Give this one a try. It's going to cool down. You know, it's nice and bubbling on the corners there. Always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen with me. Cheesy, creamy from that texture of the breadfruit. Hey, it's all kind of goodness inside there. So nice to have you here in the kitchen with me. Do give this recipe a try, and don't forget to check back for new recipes every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern.